Before we begin, one small introduction. This video was produced by Siam Planner Co Limited, known publicly as Thailand Planner, a wedding and event management company based in Thailand. Every image you see throughout this film is one of our own original hand-painted artworks created by our team. We made this video for one simple reason: to give couples some different things to think about before choosing a wedding planner. These are questions you can ask us or any other planner you are considering. There are no perfect answers. The important thing is understanding how the person thinks, how they work, and whether they are really the right fit for the wedding you want to create.
A wedding planning is an art in itself. But it is also project management. It is design, budgeting, logistics, negotiation, production, problem solving, and a lot of work with people. So when you are choosing a wedding planner, I would not start by asking how beautiful their website is or how many services they have on a list. I would start with a much simpler question. What would make our wedding uniquely made for us? I think the answer to that question tells you a lot. Because if you are telling a planner about yourselves for the first time, and 5 minutes later they are already showing you a venue, a decoration style, or a package they normally sell, I would slow down. How can somebody know what is right for you before they know you? I would also ask the planner how they entered this business. What were you doing before you became a wedding planner? And then I would ask something a little unusual. If you were not a wedding planner, what job would you be doing? There isn't a right or wrong answer to that. I'm not saying a particular profession makes somebody a good or bad planner. I'm interested in the way the person thinks. Did they naturally move towards management, design, production, business, hospitality, logistics, or working with people? Or did wedding planning simply become something they started doing? Then I would ask them something very practical. If you had never planned our type of wedding before, how would you approach it? That question matters because your wedding may not fit into something they have already done. Maybe your family is different. Maybe the cultural requirements are different. Maybe you have several events over several days. Maybe the venue has unusual limitations. Maybe you have a completely different idea in your head. I would want to know how the planner thinks when there isn't already a ready-made answer. Then comes the venue. Ask, which venue would you recommend for us? But don't stop there. Ask, why? And then ask, what do you need to know about us before you can properly recommend a venue? For me, that is a very important conversation. A venue should not be recommended simply because the planner knows somebody there, has used it many times, or finds it convenient. The venue should make sense for the wedding you are trying to create. The same applies to suppliers. How do you choose your suppliers? Do you look for the right supplier for each particular project? Or do you normally work with the same people? And there is nothing wrong with having trusted suppliers. Of course there isn't. But I would still want to understand why they are right for my wedding. Then I would ask something that couples sometimes hesitate to ask. Do you receive commissions from suppliers? Do you add anything to their prices? Can I see what the supplier actually charges? These are perfectly reasonable questions when a large wedding budget is involved. You are not accusing anyone of anything. You are simply trying to understand how the relationship works. Then ask, do you offer packages? Again, I am not saying a package automatically means a bad planner. But if you want your wedding to be genuinely personal, ask, how much of the package can we change? What happens if we want something completely different? What happens if our idea doesn't fit your normal way of working? Because there is a difference between buying a wedding product and having someone build a wedding around you. And I think that difference is worth understanding before you sign anything. Then talk about the money. Don't only ask, what is your fee? Ask, how do you manage our budget? If we have a fixed amount of money and more ideas than the budget can accommodate, how do you decide what stays and what goes? And I would definitely ask, what would you tell us not to spend money on? I like that question because planning isn't about finding more things to buy. Sometimes the best decision is not to spend the money. Sometimes moving money from one part of the wedding to another can make a much bigger difference to the final experience. That's what budget management should be about. And then I would ask about the actual planning process. Who is going to manage our project? Who will we speak to during the planning? Who makes decisions? Who coordinates the different suppliers? Who is responsible when several things need to happen at exactly the same time? Because a large wedding isn't one job, there can be hundreds of separate things happening at once, and they all affect one another. The venue affects the production. The production affects the timing. The timing affects catering. Guest movement affects transportation. Transportation affects the schedule. One small change can move through the entire project. That is why I would want to understand how the planner actually manages all of those moving parts. There is another question I think is very important. What do you need from us as clients? A planner should not simply take information from you and disappear for 6 months. Planning is a relationship. The couple has responsibilities too. You need to communicate. You need to make decisions. You need to explain what matters to you. And the planner needs to know how to turn all of that information into a workable project. And finally, I would ask something that may be uncomfortable. What kind of wedding would you tell us you are not the right planner for? I actually like this question very much, because nobody should be the perfect planner for every possible wedding. A planner should know their strengths. They should know what they enjoy doing. They should know what they are particularly good at. And they should be comfortable saying when another person may be a better fit. So when you speak to a wedding planner, don't feel that you have to impress them. You are interviewing them too. You are trying to understand how they think, how they make decisions, how they handle money, how they deal with suppliers, how they approach something they have never done before, and whether they are really listening to you. Because at the end of the day, you don't need somebody who can simply organize a wedding. You need somebody who can understand what you are trying to create, take responsibility for the complicated parts, and turn your ideas into something that actually works. And if you leave that first conversation feeling that the planner understood you better than when you walked in, that's probably a very good sign. Because your wedding should not simply look like the planner's work. It should feel like your wedding.
A wedding is something very personal, so take your time, ask questions, challenge the answers, and make sure you feel comfortable with the person you are trusting with it. We hope this video gave you a few things you may not have thought to ask before. This film was produced by Siam Planner Co Limited, Thailand Planner. Thank you for watching.